Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. Feedback is immensely important. The best way to do so, to reach out to me, is two ways. Email and fill up the comments on YouTube. Alright, so I'm on a lot of different platforms, so it won't be hard to find me. And as I mentioned, I'm working on advertisement, broadcasting my show. So, when all that's sorted out, I'll give you the info, the 411 on that. Alright, so, topic of choice here. I'm going to give my thoughts on the show Kitchen Nightmares, the US version versus the UK version. Here we go. Alright, so I'm going to sit down and talk to y'all about it. I've seen this show before, but I actually sat down and I saw episodes, and then I'm going to wrap up with some facts about it. Now, there is a lot to be said about food. Now, there is a lot of work in detail and the paying attention to the importance of food and how it's presented means a lot. And so, with the aspects of image and the aspects of dining, that goes hand in hand. And it's very apropos and to the topic of choice for this month. Alright, so typically when people go out, it's either for convenience, or it's for to celebrate something, or it's for that date night, or first time. There's a lot of different elements to dining. So, what happens when there's a monkey wrench in that scenario? So, not to fear, Kitchen Nightmare was there to remedy the situation. So, me sitting down and watching it, it's just very strange, when you get into aspects of how the element of Gordon Ramsay's persona is quite different versus the US versus UK or British version of it. Because the UK, it's an umbrella term here for a lot of different other countries. So specifically, I'm focusing in on UK meaning British. Alright, so interesting theory enough. I was talking about this with my husband, and it makes a lot of sense. And other people have brought this to the attention. So, why is it that they both vary? So, one reason could be this. Alright, so I'm going to get into this, and then I'm going to just talk about the shows. So, can't escape the phenomenon that was, and that is, American Idol. And when American Idol was originally starting, Simon Cowell, his presence wasn't as, important or domineering as it was as the season became more and more popular. And then that's when they were starting to, hey, we got to put y'all, this is a reality TV show. We're all about putting people in a stereotypical box here. So since you're British, we're going to push and push and push for the ante for you to be this. I'll be right back. Gonna push and push and push for you to be the sour patch kid and have a chip on your shoulder, and to be a stereotype or a caricature of what a British person actually would be. And so a lot of this was reflecting in the way Gordon Ramsay was when he was in the kitchen, and still now. Kitchen Nightmares is going on. It's like an hour he's doing this whole Jason Bourne mixed with Mission Impossible deal, which is okay. And so here we go, Star is Born, with the way the persona is with Gordon Ramsay. Now, this picked up a lot with his image in Hell's Kitchen. Now, needless to say, if someone is badgering and over the top like that, you pretty much don't want to be have somebody like that as a mentor. Any normal person would agree to that. So, with this said, the episodes, it ran for 6 seasons, and in each season, it got more and more over the top. It got to the point to where you had brawls, it was just the fine ingredients, the elements for daytime drama. And so, where is the insight in where is the element of choice about actually sitting down and talking and getting the ins and outs or the 401 about the restaurant business in itself? Because being a restaurateur, that is one of the unique things to say that is, and it is irony too in itself, that is one of the most, it can be, when you get it right, very lucrative business, but at the same time, you can struggle too when things aren't going right, or you can just be really competitive. Because, when you think about the aspects of fast dining, fast food, or, it's that are well-established restaurants. And then specifically when you have chains that you're vying for attention for other people's pockets to, sit down and enjoy your food. And then when your food is subpar or just not there, that really drives away business and relations to your restaurant. And it goes without saying, that's why a lot, they say that being in the restaurant business is one of the most razor thin, or the most, touch it with kid gloves businesses, because it takes a lot to get a return on your investment there with it. And so, and also within the show in the UK version, you get a sense of unreality where you have all these arguments and these fights. Why would people continue to go when they hear that? And also, why would people continue to eat subpar food? And, there's one thing to say about that too, from a realistic point of view here. Because, I've seen restaurants, growing up, and actually been to restaurants where the food is subpar. But the element of surprise here is that the customer relation or the people are friendly. So it's one of those things that offset the other. And then also when the food is when the food is subpar, the customer relation is not there. What is a means for it to still stay grounded? And also with the elements of choice, cleanliness is not there. So that was a lot of imagery that was going on in the American version of Kitchen Nightmares, where it was every so often where they would have a restaurant owner that was immaculate in the way that the kitchen was ran, the way that the food prep and everything was on point, everything was fresh and made to order. But primarily, the whole attitude for the people who were running these restaurants was either they were delusional, they just did not care anymore, or it was one of these things where the badge of honor was thrust upon them, and so they had to take the ranks and ran it down to the ground with that whole, cliche where, when it's passed down, the torch is passed down to the kids, they don't know what to do with it, so they run the business down to the ground. They have the parents coming back and trying to keep and hold on to their business for the sake of their name and their reputation in the community. And also a lot of family drama, people not being very dysfunctional, and also on the brink of bankruptcy with the aspects of how the cash flow just isn't coming right out of their business. Now, that is vastly different when we go into the UK version of Kitchen Nightmares. It's very more documentary. He's very mal-mannered. He's speaking to people directly, but he's giving respect to the people that he is talking to. So that is a vast, stark difference between the US version, where he's cursing, he's enabling and even instigating fights. And then there was a point where there was this most explosive episode, but that's a two-way street with that, on the final season, where Amy's bakery or so, she and her husband were very volatile in the aspects of how they would talk to their employees and also the staff. The employees and also the people who would venture to eat, the customers here. And so they have said a lot that, excuse me, I'll be right back, I have something. That it was actually a curse for them to come into their business, because they actually made it to where they were easily accessible for people to turn them into a laughingstock. Versus the UK version, where he's actually sitting down, understanding the situation, and processing everything from a very eloquent and a very strategical, effective business point of view. So why is it that it's so different? So these are my opinions about it. I think that, originally it was released in the UK. And why would you, literally lose your crap on where you live? Because that doesn't make any sense. You can tend to be yourself when you are broadcasting to your own nation. That's common sense. And then for the most part, when it was I think it was released on BBC or so forth. And, Grandma Media here. And their intentions was to just simply show a different point of view about what can be thought about when it comes to entertainment and business and the restaurant field. And so, it was taken really seriously. Now, when they go without saying a lot, in the worst way, this happened and unfolded when people, producers, direct, whatever was at hand with that, when they saw this, hey, let's make the American version and let's dilute it and then shake it up and spit it out and hype up the ante, because reality is all about the ratings, and really lost that prestige that was there with the intention of Kitchen Nightmares. So with this said, I am going to get into the facts of the matter about the show. All right, so this is from an article called MASH. So the real difference between the UK and the US version of Kitchen Nightmares. So this was originally written in 2020 on December 11th by Hannah Cole. It says, if you've been on the internet long enough, then chances are you've seen the train wreck that is Amy's Baking Company, in which I was referring to. The episode of Kitchen Nightmares, and if you haven't, then trust us, we say you're in for an hour of reality TV gold. So in the episode, Gordon Ramsay, in a typical Gordon Ramsay fashion, serves up a plate of piping hot criticism for lackluster owners Amy and Sammy Bulzin-Gallo, ultimately setting the scene for some of the best drama that has ever been produced. The show has ever produced. So the infamous cook even walked off and quit taping. Thanks to moments like this, Kitchen Nightmares has found a home in living rooms all across the U.S. Gordon Ramsay hurling insults on a too loud TV as well. That's just an average night in the American household. But many people don't know that before the U.S. version, there was actually a very different Kitchen Nightmares set in the U.K. Gordon Ramsay isn't half bad in the British kitchen version. Believe it or not, the U.K. Kitchen Nightmare isn't much of a nightmare at all. Gordon Ramsay first launched the show back in 2004 on Channel 4 via The Guardian. At the time, restaurant owners rejoiced in the respect with chef's arrival. In comparison, the U.S. restaurant owners weren't either angry, absolutely panicking, or both upon Ramsay's arrival. Real Rundown notes that very rarely did participants in the British version actually get into confrontations with Ramsay, which eventually became a regular scheduled program on the U.S. edition. So, according to the Rusty Soapbox, they state that the most notable difference between the two is that Ramsay narrates each of the UK episodes himself, while in the UK version it is more documentary style. In the US version, it is quintessential reality TV. So according to IMDb, the booming voice that takes viewers on the Kitchen Nightmares USA's on a whirlwind roller coaster ride comes from Arthur Wilson. Kitchen Nightmares USA heightens the reality of drama. Unlike the British version, Kitchen Nightmares USA pushes the envelope when it comes to production. Ominous music, also in check. Overzealous narration, also in check. A ridiculous amount of profanity sprinkled throughout, check, and double check, and triple check. So instead of focusing on the logistics side of running a restaurant, the U.S. edition followed the Times reality TV trend and sensationalized every word a participant said. As Reel's Rundown states, according to brief rundown. The American Kitchen Nightmares was less about the business and more about the aggressive persona that viewers came to expect from Ramsay. The Guardian even reports that after making... Now, I'm not a big fan of The Guardian with the news outlet. It's very unfortunate with the way that the biases has came from The Guardian. But you give credit where credit is due. And it's very important to uplift when they're getting stuff right. And in this case, it's good for them to have this spin and, being truthful about the aspects of how it's very unfortunate that money and being fake is more prevalent in the U.S. version of this business or this corporate or this production of Kitchen Nightmares here. So the Guardian even reports that after making the leap across the pond, participants were ordered to only address him by the formal title, Chef Ramsay. So, if there's anything the two versions have in common besides Ramsay itself, it's one thing and one thing only. Literally all of the once desperate restaurants eventually failed. So as of May 2020, Reality TV Revisited estimates that 79% of all featured Kitchen Nightmare restaurants have closed. All right, so here we go with some more aspects. I'll say, here we go. So, imagine the hellspawn spawn of Disney's villain Cruella de Vil and the infamous soup Nazi from Seinfeld coming to your home in a chef's coat, screaming his head off about everything and then threatening to shut down upon coming across a moldy orange you've been meaning to throw away. Which, goes without saying, especially when you get really busy, sometimes things get slip and, that's common, but, you're not just going to leave it like that. I mean, come on. With Kitchen Nightmares with celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay is like, what would that be like? Only your home is actually a restaurant. So the orange is actually a refrigerator full of expired meat. Big mistake. You'd rather have a good excuse lined up because you've about to be accused of trying to kill everybody with rotten food. Gordon Ramsay has made an entire career out of shaming failed restaurateurs. He may be the scariest thing to come out of Scotland since the Loch Ness Monster and deep fried haggis pops. It's a wonder that he's never been slapped, but this is reality TV and Kitchen Nightmares has been hit with a fair bit of controversies over the years. So we're talking lawsuits, smear campaigns, and cheating allegations, and more. So they come up with some of the worst scandals here. So, I am going to wrap everything up. If y'all want to read that, so be it. But I'm not going to get into the bare details about that because that is getting away from my point for making this episode. Clearly, here to wrap everything up with a nice little bow. Or a nice little dessert here, cherry on top. Now, image comes a lot with the persona of food. And there's something to be said with you are what you eat. And you are also with where you choose to go and dine. So, when a reality TV show like Kitchen Nightmares is at the forefront with and understanding that importance, it's very important to hold intact the dignity of respect, of just really telling things for what they are and educating the major public instead of boosting stuff up and making stuff that isn't there just for ratings. Food for thought. All right, so I'd like to know what you all think. Feel free to reach out, and the 2 ways to do so is through email and on YouTube. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye for now.